Today on MTG Unpacked, we're getting stuck into the new Bloomburrow Commander deck Peace Offering. So this is a green, white and blue deck. And the commander here is Ms. Bumbleflower. We get a collector booster sample pack here along with a 100 card deck with 10 new cards, deck box, 10 double-sided tokens, strategy, insert and reference card. Okay, so let's get into it here. So this deck, commonly known as like a group hug deck, because you're giving benefits to your opponents, and they have some sort of saying under here. What does it say? More bunny, more problems. Okay, so I wonder how many rabbits we'll see in this one. Alright, so we'll set that aside. We've got a deck here along with a flyer that tells us about it, and some punch outs here, and tokens and so forth. And then in the envelope, so we no longer have the life wheel, but we do have a collector booster sample pack. We'll get into that shortly. We also have a somewhat of a deck box here. So just a cardboard, really basic thing, but it does the job. I reckon you'll be able to single sleeve your entire deck and that should fit in there just fine. But before we get into the deck itself, let's take a look at the flyer here, see what this is about. So we have Ms. Bumbleflower. So playing the deck here, you can give stuff to your friends and then people can start arguing over that. We've got the new gift mechanic here, along with commander rules in case you're new to the format. And then on the other side, we can learn a little bit more about Ms. Bumbleflower, the rabbit here. So very cool character indeed. So let's take a look at the collector booster sample pack, see what we get today. So just a small taste of collector boosters. So here we have the Liliana as a squirrel. That is fun. And a wishing well. Nice extended art there. And a foil Stormcatch Mentor. Alright, so you will likely get things different to what I did. Let's get into the deck here. One thing I'll note is they no longer have the thick display commanders in here. So instead you get a couple of foils. And this deck is also going for about $50 right now on TCG Player. Okay, so here is our commander, Ms. Bumbleflower. Legendary creature, rabbit citizen. It's a mythic. 1/5 for 1 green, white and blue with vigilance. Whenever you cast a spell, target opponent draws a card. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains flying until end of turn. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, you draw 2 cards. Alright, so the opponent, you're giving them some card draw, but you should benefit as well. Then we have another mythic, Mr. Foxglove, legendary creature, Foxrogue, 3/5 for 2, green, white and blue with lifelink. Whenever Mr. Foxglove attacks, draw cards equal to the number of cards in defending player's hand, minus the number of cards in your hand. If you didn't draw cards this way, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Nice one. And we also have these cool Imagine Critters cards in these commander decks. So here we have Tamio Field Researcher. I guess she's supposed to be a rabbit. It's a mythic, legendary planeswalker Tamio, 4 loyalty for 1 green, white and blue. Her +1, choose up to 2 target creatures until your next turn. Whenever either of those creatures deals combat damage, you draw a card. Her -2, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step. Her -7, draw 3 cards. You get an emblem with, you may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana costs. That would be pretty nutty. Alright, so let's grab a pile of cards here. And we start off with Tenuous Truce. Enchantment Aura for 1 and white. Enchant opponent. At the beginning of enchanted opponent's end step, you and that player each draw a card. And when you attack enchanted opponent or a planeswalker they control, or when they attack you or a planeswalker you control, Sacrifice Tenuous Truce. Then we have Lauren of the Third Path, legendary creature, human artificer, 2/1 for 2 and a white with vigilance. When it enters, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment and tap. You and target opponent each draw a card. Then we have Stillbird Champion, creature, mouse soldier, 1/1 for 2 and a white. Has offspring for 1 and a white. So you can pay that additional as you cast the spell. If you do, when this creature enters, create a 1/1 token copy of it. Also has vigilance. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Then we have Tempt with Bunnies. Sorcery for 2 and a white. Tempting Offer. Draw a card and create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. Then each opponent may draw a card and create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. For each opponent who does, you draw a card and you create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. So rabbits for everybody. Then we have Perch Protection, instant for 4 and 2 white. Gift an extra turn. What? You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast the spell. If you do, they take an extra turn after this one. Create 4 2/2 Bluebird creature tokens with flying. If the gift was promised, all permanents you control phase out, and until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. Exile Perch Protection. Interesting. Curious how that would work out in practice. Sunscorch Regent, creature dragon, 4/3 for 3 and 2 white with flying. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sunscorch Regent and you gain 1 life. Promise of Loyalty, sorcery for 4 and a white. Each player puts a vow counter on a creature they control and sacrifices the rest. Each of those creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control for as long as it has a vow counter on it. Hoofprints of the Stag, kindred enchantment elemental for 1 and a white. Whenever you draw a card, you may put a hoofprint counter on Hoofprint of the Stags. For 2 and a white, remove 4 hoofprint counters from Hoofprints of the Stag. Create a 4/4 white elemental creature token with flying, activate only during your turn. Then we have a Mythic, Mangara the Diplomat, legendary creature, human cleric, 2/4 for 3 and a white with lifelink. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, draw a card. And whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. Another Mythic, Realm Cloaked Giant. So this is in 2 parts here. You can either cast off 3 and 2 white, Sorcery Adventure. You can do that first, and then the creature, or just the creature. So the sorcery here, destroy all non-giant creatures. Then exile this card. You may cast the creature later from exile. And then the creature portion has Vigilance 7/7. Alright, and then we have another Mythic, Sphinx of Enlightenment. Creature Sphinx, 5/5 for 4 and 2 blue with flying. When it enters, target opponent draws a card and you draw 3 cards. Forgotten Ancient, creature elemental, 0/3 for 3 and a green. Whenever a player casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Forgotten Ancient. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of +1/+1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. Then we have a Bloodroot Apothecary, creature Squirrel Druid, 3/3 for 2 and a green. Has Toxic 2. So players dealt combat damage by this creature also get 2 poison counters. A player with 10 or more poison counters loses the game. And when Bloodroot Apothecary enters, you and target opponent each create a treasure token. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-creature token, that player gets 2 poison counters. Then we have Communal Brewing, enchantment for 2 and a green. When it enters, any number of target opponents each draw a card. Put an ingredient counter on Communal Brewing, then put an ingredient counter on it for each card drawn this way. Whenever you cast a creature spell, that creature enters with X additional +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of ingredient counters on Communal Brewing. Interesting. Then we have Managorger Hydra, creature Hydra, 1/1 for 2 and a green with trample. Whenever a player casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Managorger Hydra. Rishkar Pima Renegade, legendary creature, elf druid, 2/2 for 2 and a green. When it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Each creature you control with a counter on it has tap, add green. Then we have Rites of Flourishing, enchantment for 2 and a green. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. Each player may play an additional land on each of their turns. Tempt with Discovery, sorcery for 3 and a green, has Tempting Offer. Search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Each opponent may search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. For each opponent who searches the library this way, Search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. Then each player who searched the library this way shuffles. And a mythic Colonian Hydra. So creature Hydra 0/0 for 3 and 2 green with trample. Enters with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever it attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. That is nuts. Bloomburrow Elder, creature Treefolk Druid 0/0 for 1 green and white with vigilance. It gets +1/+1 for each colour among permanents you control, and tap for each colour among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that colour. Then we've got Simic Ascendancy, enchantment for green and blue. And for 1 green and blue, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. So nice alternate win con there. Girapur Orrery, artifact for 4. Each player may play an additional land on each of their turns. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, that player draws 3 cards. Then we've got a Psychosis Crawler, artifact creature Phyrexian Horror, star for 5. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. Then we have Udakar Waste, tap for colourless or tap for white or blue. It deals 1 damage to you. And Temple of Enlightenment, enters tapped when it enters scry 1, tap for white or blue. And Seachrome Coast, enters tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands, tap for white or blue. Glacial Fortress, enters tapped unless you control a plains or an island, tap for white or blue. Okay, digging in here, we have Hinterland Harbour, enters tapped unless you control a forest or an island, tap for green or blue. Razor Verge Thicker, enters tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands, tap for green or white. And Flooded Grove, tap for colourless or for green or blue. Tap, add 2 green, 2 blue, or green and blue. Then we have Exotic Orchard, tap to add 1 mana of any colour that a land an opponent controls could produce. Skycloud Expanse, for 1 tap, add white and blue. And Canopy Vista, tap for green or white, enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Prairie Stream, tap for white or blue, enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. And Brushland, tap for colourless or tap for green or white, and it deals 1 damage to you. Temple of Mystery, enters tapped. When it enters scry 1, tap for green or blue. And Yavimaya Coast, tap for colourless or tap for green or blue, and it deals 1 damage to you. Overflowing Basin, for 1 tap, add green and blue. And Sungrass Prairie, for 1 tap, add green and white. And I'm liking the mana base here on the whole. Some nice non-tapping lands, actually. We've got a Sun Petal Grove, enters tapped unless you control a forest or a plains. Tap for green or white. And then Triska Decaphile, creature human wizard 1/3 for 1 and a blue. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. And for 3 and a blue, draw a card. Have you actually pulled off a win that way? Let me know in the comments. We've got Chasm Skulker, creature Squid Horror 1/1 for 2 and a blue. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Chasm Skulker. And when it dies, create X 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Chasm Skulker. And Island Walk means they can't be blocked as long as the defending player controls an island. We've got an Octomancer, creature Frog Druid, 3/3 for 3 green and blue. Gift an octopus, that's fun. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast a spell. If you do, when it enters, they create an 8/8 blue octopus creature token. Why would you do that? At the beginning of each end step, create a token that's a copy of target creature token that entered the battlefield this turn. Oh, I see. So you end up copying it. Interesting. 20-toed Toad, creature Frog Wizard, 3/3 for 3 and a blue. Your maximum hand size is 20. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on 20-toed Toad and draw a card. And whenever 20-toed Toad attacks, you win the game if there are 20 or more counters on it, or you have 20 or more cards in hand. Then we have Intellectual Offering, instant for 4 and a blue. Choose an opponent, you and that player each draw 3 cards. Choose an opponent, untap all non-land permanents you control, and all non-land permanents that player controls. Then we got Illusionist Gambit, instant for 2 and 2 blue. Cast the spell only during the declare blocker step on an opponent's turn. Remove all attacking creatures from combat and untap them. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Each of those creatures attacks that combat if able. They can't attack you or planeswalkers you control that combat. Then we have Body of Knowledge, creature avatar, star for 3 and 2 blue. Its power and toughness for each equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever Body of Knowledge is dealt damage, draw that many cards. Then we have a Perplexing Test, instant for 3 and 2 blue. Choose one, return all creature tokens to their owner's hands, or return all non-token creatures to their owner's hands. We've got Jolriel, Monvuli Recluse, legendary creature, human druid, 1/2 for 1 and a green. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 green cat creature token. And for 4 and 2 green until end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in your hand. Fish's Talent, enchantment class, so gain the next level as a sorcery to add its ability. So for the 2 green and blue, at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal it if it's a land card. Create a 1/1 blue fish creature token if you revealed it this way. Then draw a card on level 2 for green and blue. If you would create a fish token, create a 3/3 blue shark creature token instead. And on level 3 for 2 green and blue, if you'd create a shark token, create an 8/8 blue octopus creature token instead. Then we have Selvala Explorer Return, legendary creature elf scout, 2/4 for 1 green and white, has parley, so tap, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, add green and you gain 1 life, then each player draws a card. Quain Itinerant Meddler, legendary creature rabbit wizard, 1/3 for white and blue, tap, each player may draw a card, then each player who drew a card this way gains 1 life. Temple of Plenty enters tap. When it enters scroll 1, tap for green or white. And Coveted Jewel, artifact for 6. When it enters, draw 3 cards or tap to add 3 mana of any one colour. Whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls attack you and outblocked, that player draws 3 cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel. Untap it. Then we have a Generous Gift, instant for 2 and white. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. Swords to Plowshares, instant for a single white, exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Secret Rendezvous, sorcery for 1 and 2 white. You and target opponent each draw 3 cards. Baird Steward of Argive, legendary creature, human soldier, 2/4 for 2 and 2 white with vigilance. Creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. An offer you can't refuse, instant for a single blue. Counter target non-creature spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. So those are artifacts with tap. Select this artifact, add 1 mana of any colour. Then we've got Wizard class, enchantment class. You have no maximum hand size for a single blue. On level 2 for 2 and blue. When this class becomes level 2, draw 2 cards. On level 3 for 4 and a blue. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then we have Cultivate, sorcery for 2 and a green. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. And Farseek, sorcery for 1 and a green. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp or mountain, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Broken Wings, instant for 2 and a green. Destroy target artifact, enchantment or creature with flying. Okay, so we'll cut the deck here at the tokens and continue on. We have a Spore Frog, creature frog, 1/1 for a single green. If you sacrifice it, prevent all combat damage that be dealt this turn. Wear Down, sorcery for 1 and a green. Gift a card. So you may promise an opponent a gift as you cast the spell. If you do, they draw a card before its other effects. Destroy target artifact or enchantment if the gift was promised instead. Destroy 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Peerless Recycling, instant for 1 and a green. Gift a card. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If the gift was promised instead, return 2 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Then we have Coiling Oracle, creature snake elf druid, 1/1 for green and blue. When it enters, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card into your hand. Riot Control. Instant for 2 and a white. You gain 1 life for each creature or opponent's control. Prevent all damage that be dealt to you this turn. Martial Impetus. Enchantment Aura for 2 and a white. Enchant creature. The enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and is goaded. So that means that it attacks each combat if able and attacks a player other than you if able. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, each other creature that's attacking one of your opponents gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Jolly Gerbils. Nice one. Creature Hamster Citizen. 2, 3, 4, 1 and white. Whenever you give a gift, draw a card. Nice synergy there. Long River's Pool. Instant for 2 blue. Gift a card. Counter target creature spell. If the gift was promised instead, counter target spell. Thought Vessel. You have no maximum hand size. Tap for colorless. Arcane Signet artifact for 2. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity when you tap that one. And Swiftfoot Boots. Artifact equipment for 2. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Equipped for 1. Fellwar Stone artifact for 2. Tap to add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. And Soul Ring. Pretty much every command deck has one of these. Artifact for 1. Tap for 2 colorless. Mind Stone artifact for 2. Tap 4 colorless for 1. Tap, sack it, draw a card. Thriving Heath enters tapped. As it enters, choose a color other than white. Tap to add 1 white or 1 mana of the chosen color. Thriving Isle enters tapped. As it enters, choose a color other than blue. Tap for blue or 1 mana of the chosen color. Evolving Wilds. Tap, sack it, search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Thriving Grove enters tapped. As it enters, choose a color other than green. Tap for green or 1 mana of the chosen color. And Terramorphic Expanse. Tap, sack it, search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Command Tower. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. And Reliquary Tower. You have no maximum hand size. Tap for colorless. Seaside Citadel enters tap. Tap for green, white, or blue. And then we have basic lands here. So plains. 4 of those. Islands. 4 of those. And forests we also have 4. Okay, so now we'll take a look at the tokens here. So we've got our 3/3 elephant. And on the other side, a 1/1 squid with Island Walk. Stillbur Champion 1/1, Mouse Soldier, Vigilance. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So this token's mana cost is 2 and white. On the other side, we've got the 1/1 squid. We've got a 1/1 rabbit. On the other side, an 8/8 octopus. Remember that one. Treasure, tap, sack this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. On the other side, we have a 2/2 cat, another rabbit, and a 1/1 fish. We got a bird with flying, 2/2, 1/1 fish, 2/2 flying bird, and a 3/3 shark. There we go. Elemental with flying, 4/4. On the other side, a shark, 3/3. Another elemental flying, 4/4, 2/2 cat. And a poison counter, along with a rabbit on the other side, and parts of the turn, and popular Magic formats. Okay, so this deck is very different than the others. So if you're not familiar with Group Hug, you're basically cooperating with one or more of your opponents. And of course, there's a lot of backstabbing and stuff that goes on, and you're hoping to eke out an advantage by giving the gifts with this deck. So certainly a very interesting deck indeed. May or may not be to your taste depending on your play style. Let me know in the comments what you think about this one. And if you've missed any of the Bloomburrow videos on the channel, including the Commander decks, I'll pop a link in the corner to the complete playlist. Hope everyone's staying safe and healthy out there. Thanks for watching and have a great day.